Vietnam is a land of rich heritage. 14 elements of Vietnamese heritage have been recognized by UNESCO as World Heritage, Intangible Cultural Heritage, or Memories of the World. But much of the work in preservation of this heritage during a period of socio-economic development is due to the works of a foreigner, Catherine Mary.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Talk Vietnam. Our guest for today's show is Ms. Catherine Muller-Marine. She's the representative of UNESCO to Vietnam, and we're lucky enough to have her in our studio today. So please join me in welcoming Catherine. Hi, Catherine.
Hello.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
How are you today?
Fine. Actually, very happy to be here and take a little bit of a rest from all the work we've had this past weeks.
I'm sure you have a very busy schedule. We really appreciate your being here.
Thank
and
you.
You look absolutely amazing in the Ao Dai.
Thank you very much.
And
it's a lovely Ao Dai. Yes.
Yes, I've noticed that.
We're trying to promote a campaign to eliminate all sorts of garbage and pollution in these sites. And I think we need everybody to be part of it, and also, to help us to protect, for example, when you think about the langur monkeys up in Cat Ba, in Biosphere Reserve, and you think that they only exist, the only place in the world where they exist is in Cat Ba, and there's only like 60 more monkeys left. And so, now the whole Cat Ba Biosphere Reserve and the island is really conscious of protecting them. We need to make everyone in Vietnam know that they have this precious jewel there, and that everybody needs to contribute to that protection. So I think one of the most pressing issues right now is to make sure that we have the whole population conscious of how valuable, what gifts they have, and how they need to ensure that these gifts go throughout generations.
In a recent working trip to the Cat Ba archipelago, Catherine paid a visit to the farm of Vu Tien Chinh, a local resident in Xuân Đam district. Cultivating this land since it was uninhabited, Chinh now has 5.7 hectares of agriculture and forest land to generate income for the family. Natural honey, one of the many specialties in his garden, has been given the Cat Ba Archipelago Biosphere Reserve label due to its excellent quality.
Vườn quốc gia Cát Bà là được thế giới công nhận là một trong những khu dự trữ sinh quyển. Thì gia đình nhà tôi cũng mong muốn là sản phẩm của mình nó cũng gắn liền với lại cái khu dự trữ sinh quyển, và sau này mình phải khẳng định cái chất lượng cho nó làm sao đó để đảm bảo cho người tiêu dùng người ta biết đến và người ta tin tưởng sử dụng cái sản phẩm của mình.
Witnessing the benefits brought about by the branding to local community, Catherine found that this was a good chance for her to understand the situation and develop a better way of promoting the use of the brand.
It's good to be able to talk to them and to also understand how they see that they benefit from the branding. What are the areas that they feel that we need to follow up on? All that is still in process of discussion, but at least we during this trip we were made aware of many of these issues, and there's a will of the authorities to discuss and to try to find solutions. Yes.
In order to achieve this certification, existing sustainable non-polluting economic models have to meet standards of quality, which are internationally known as ISO 14000 and ISO 9000. With the support of UNESCO's Man and Biosphere Committee, the local authority is determined to make this come true.
Khi mà có cái mô hình kinh tế ở cái viên đệm này để mà thúc đẩy cái việc này thì người dân có cái đời sống xóa đói giảm nghèo, có cái đời sống thì giảm thiểu cái việc tác động cái môi trường trong vùng lõi. Thì đây là cái đã được các nhà khoa học cũng như là các cái cơ quan quản lý đầu tư quan tâm, và cái mô hình này chúng tôi đang tiếp tục được nhân rộng cho các cái khu các xã vùng đệm.
Other successful branding models in Cat Ba also include agricultural produce such as fish sauce, chicken, oranges, safe vegetables and fruit, as well as green hotels, transport services and ecotourism. Once the use of the brand is systematized, biodiversity conservation and sustainable development are sure to go along mutually supportive paths.
We've just seen in this clip here your short visit to Cat Ba Island, the Biosphere Reserve. Can you talk a little bit about this trip? What do you think about the situation here?
Cat Ba. Cat Ba is one of the biosphere reserves, or 8 biosphere reserves in Vietnam. For UNESCO, the biosphere reserves are very, very important because it is about protecting biodiversity. Of course, it is also protecting culture because you help protect the local communities that live there. But biodiversity needs to be protected. And I think Cat Ba is an interesting example of how a small island has become the target of so much tourism, over 1 million tourists a year coming just to Cat Ba, and how it is trying to cope with this amount of tourism that's coming to the island, and how many beautiful things it has to show. There's a lot of people who I know that love to go to Cat Ba to see the fishing, to do fishing, just to sit at the beach. I think one of the things when I think of Cat Ba, I think, like as I mentioned before, of the langurs, the need to protect the monkeys.
There's also the national park there.
Yes, the national park. Yes, it is. It's a site that has a combination of so many things. It has, the beach. It has the forest. It has the animals. It's got a combination of a lot of things. So I like to visit Cat Ba. And I hope that we all commit to protect Cat Ba. Yes, definitely.
Kind of keep the tourism to kind of a balance in order to preserve.
There has to be a balance. Yes, definitely.
How about the people living there? You mentioned earlier that they've been able to kind of brand their products.
Yes.
After the recognition of the biosphere.
Yes, actually, I visited several of the local people who have received these recognitions for the branding. I think what's important to mention about the branding is that it's done against international standards. They're using the ISO 9000 and ISO 14000, and that is important because it's comparing to international standards. Wonderful. The quality of the product. I see that there's a lot of creativity in trying to identify products and being very careful about the quality. When you go see the quality of the honey there, it's amazing. It's just amazing. The quality of the oranges, the quality of the lodges that have been able to receive these recognitions. So I think it's about raising standards. You want maybe not so many tourists, but you want tourists of a higher quality. Tourists who come back often. Tourists who are careful about the location, that they care for it, that participate in that responsibility. So I think Cat Ba is trying to do that, trying to show how they're doing that. We also have an important program with youth, with youngsters. They have amazing projects there, and we just recently gave some certificates, so you can see how the young generation is very committed to protect and also to participate actively, because participation of the community is fundamental.
Exactly. Outside to become a World Heritage, because that would be awesome. The last question for you now. We talked a lot about cultural preservation today, and how you talked in some instances how the youths can kind of play such a big role in that. So how can the young people? I mean, we have a lot of youths here sitting in our studio, and I'm sure a lot more watching at home. What can they do to kind of jump into the wagon here, jump into the process of cultural preservation?
Well, there's a lot that youth can do. I mean, youth is going to be the governing body of this country and of the rest of the world, and as soon as they continue growing, and so they should try to inform themselves, try to be able to understand what these sites mean to the different countries, how they contribute, what does biodiversity mean, what can they do in terms of protecting this biodiversity, what can they do in terms of protecting culture, reliving culture. To tell you the truth, this is a country where I sometimes can see a youth watching a festival and watching the whole festival and enjoying it. You don't see that very much in other countries nowadays, and I think that's something that we need to try to continue to extend, that it doesn't get lost. I think youth needs to collaborate in keeping the country clean and make sure that they are an example of picking up and deleting all sorts of garbage and potential pollution. that is one of the areas where I would invite them to mostly try to contribute. Because when you do that, you already become a protector of whatever you're cleaning up and whatever you're not polluting. So that's very important.
Well, thank you very much, Catherine, for joining us here today and sharing your stories with us. And that was it for our edition of Talk Vietnam today. Our guest was Ms. Catherine Muller-Marine. She's the representative of UNESCO to Vietnam. We hope you enjoyed the session, and we'll talk more next time here on Talk Vietnam.